Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We got a great guest on here today. This is Rahul. Rahul, say hello to the audience.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Paul.
Rahul owns a vegan restaurant in Iowa, and I wanted to have him on here today to talk about his experience with his lifestyle and what made him open up a vegan restaurant. So, Rahul, where did you grow up when you grow up?
I grew up in India and was born in New Delhi, and then did my schooling in Central India, and then did my undergrad in South India. So I kind of moved around through the country.
And how does somebody from India end up in Iowa?
Well, that's a great question. After high school, I had two career paths I could have taken. One was culinary world, and then the other one was engineering. And my dad kind of moved me to the engineering side, and I enjoyed that journey very much. And I went for undergrad and then did my master's in business, which is when I realized that I wanted to do more engineering studies, and then I started applying to universities all around the world. And so it was the US that attracted me the most. And I found a professor who was doing research in an area that I was interested in, which was water treatment and filtration and purification of things that we use and recycling. So that to me was a very interesting challenge, and I found a professor who was ready to add me to his research group and do my master's under him, and which ended up being I came over and it ended up being a PhD instead of a master because it worked out well. And so then I was in Ohio, is where I went to school, and then after that I got a job and moved to the Northeast, which was like in New England, and after that I lived in Kentucky for about 10 years, and then after Kentucky we moved to Iowa, and so that's
Yeah,
kind of my
well, you
journey.
traveled all over the place. So let me ask you, when you were growing up in India, were you eating a vegetarian or vegan diet, or did you just eat just like what everyone else ate?
Yeah, I was on a heavy meat diet from the Indian standards. Now, from an American standards, I think it might be different, but from an Indian standard, I was on a heavy meat diet from the beginning, growing up. I would say when I was in school, it was a good balanced diet, but when I was on kind of living on my own, it was mostly a meat-based diet.
Well, that's
Um,
interesting what you said with America and India. So in India, in general, a heavy meat-based diet in India, you would say the United States is much more meat-based, would you, or no?
Oh yeah, the portion of meat is different. That was like a cultural shock when we came over. Me and my wife, we at that time, had come together, and we felt it was a cultural shock that the portions are big, but then slowly you get absorbed in the culture, and next thing that was our portion size, and we were quite immersed in the American culture from every aspect, and we enjoyed that at that time, not knowing where we were headed. And
Sure. So what made you decide? Were you sick? Or did you ever experience any sicknesses growing up?
I mean, growing up, I would say I was quite healthy, and I would say up until my college years. But I'd always been like a chubby person. I wouldn't say overweight, but I would say not. If you follow the BMI, I would be like on the higher end of my body mass index, if you will. So, but then when I went to grad school here in the U.S., just being in that stressful grad school regime, I mean, we were also having fun as a student. You're not you haven't started working yet. So, but then you just don't question your choices when it comes to foods, drinks, or snacks that you bring into the house. And you're as a student, you're kind of on. You're not thinking about when you see food, you're just gonna go eat it mindlessly, whether you're hungry or not. So we were kind of living in that lifestyle, and then slowly, I would say right after I got my I was a postdoc, and then after that I got my job in the industry. Right around that time, I figured out that I had diabetes, and it so happened that we were shopping for insurance, and they just send somebody to do some blood work so that they know who they're insuring, and that's when I found out that I had type 2 diabetes. And,
Wow.
but
How old were you?
I was 29.
How old are you now?
I'm 42.
So when you were 29, you had no idea you had type 2 diabetes until you took that test for your health insurance
Yes. And
or your
then that
life
was a
insurance or
shocker.
whatever it
It
was.
was it was yeah, life yeah, we were shopping for yeah, I believe it was life
Yeah,
insurance
yeah.
at that time.
Okay, so you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and did they say you're gonna have to pay a lot more for this unless you get to take care of this or what?
Oh, they said we can insure you.
Oh wow.
He said we can insure you. So I mean, I wasn't upset about that, but I was like, how did I get here? And then the answer was right in front of me. Look at what you're eating, look at what you're drinking, and look at your diet.
How was your wife's blood test? Were they fine at the
Oh, they
time?
were fine. They were fine.
Okay. So you figured out, look what I'm eating, and then you figured out this was causing your issue.
Yeah, and women and men put on weight, and the unhealth is a different way. Men tend to put on uh, they tend to put on weight on the insides first, as in your arteries and your insides. The cholesterol buildup starts inside. For women, it's on the body first. So that's why men tend to get heart attacks sooner than women. And so I guess that's what happened, because my wife's only 2 years younger to me. But she was also like in her weight, she was also gaining the weight and calories because we were pretty much on the same diet. She had just not reached a chronic illness point at that time. So, um, but then that was a turning point. And then, I mean, obviously I had to go see an endocrinologist to get my sugars fixed and
Did they
and
put you on medication or
yeah, right
suggest
away. Right
right
away.
away?
They
And
they
did you
just
take it at the time?
yeah, I did. I mean,
Okay.
but every time, I mean, I've been engineer and a scientist. I always look at things from okay, what they are at that time. And I looked into the eyes of every endocrinologist I had in those 9 years I had diabetes. I would look them in the eye and ask them, is there a cure for this condition? Can I somehow like undo this condition? Like, can my body heal? And they would say, you can control it. Sometimes, you get a even worse answers like, no, just take your medication. You got to, just look at what you're eating and do some exercise, or that's it. You got to live with it.
So when the doctor told you, look at what you're eating. So for somebody with type 2 diabetes, what did they tell you? Did they just tell you no sugar? Did they say anything about fruit? Did they say anything about fat? What exactly did they tell you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think they ask you to follow the the diet that is prescribed by the American nutrition, because doctors are not nutritionists. They just teach they learn nutrition as a subject in school as a macronutrition. So they just give you that information that you got to eat proteins, make sure you're not eating too much carb, and have some fiber for vegetable, and make sure your plate's balanced, and that's it. And then they said if you want, you can hire a nutritionist that can help you further if you are interested. But that also meant more money. Um, and every five endocrinologists in those 9 years, I think everyone had a different, every doctor is different, but none of them told me that there was a cure out there, and that's probably because they didn't know about a cure, and so.
All right. So here you are taking the medicine, listening to your doctor, and then when did you make the connection between what you should be eating and how to get better from diabetes?
So, how to get better? I think that mindset had already started when me and my wife saw that report. And she's the one who was always striving to, and that was also the time I think my wife was pregnant with our son. And so she was more conscious as a mother now to take care of eating, of we are eating. So we started watching documentaries like Forks Over Knives, but that didn't give us the trigger that that there might be something fundamentally wrong with your diet to begin with. But that shift happened. There was This was 2020, and she had a girls' night out, and she came back with a book, um, and she said, "Hey, I want you to read this book." And the book, I looked at it. It said "Reverse Diabetes in 21 Days." So, and before that, having been through five endocrinologists and, having had researched this topic at a certain level, my first instinct was, okay, yeah, this must be a gimmick or something. Uh, so I was like, I didn't read it for 2 months. Then, it was 2020, everybody was locked in to homes. And then
How I know you said you were a little overweight but how much overweight? Were you very overweight or just
I
like
was 60 pounds heavier than I was today.
60 pounds
Today.
heavier? Okay,
Yeah.
so how tall are you?
I'm 6 feet,
And how much did you weigh at that point?
like 220.
Well, that's okay. Okay.
So not, I would say I was mostly fat around my waist
Sure.
and just, yeah, maybe just more chubby cheeks.
Okay.
Oh.
So you're overweight. She gives you the book. You put it on the side for 2 months, and then you finally pick up the book.
Yeah, finally pick it up, and it was a more early morning at and I just picked it up, and then I didn't put it, I could not put it down. It was like somebody had my attention, and it talked about a pain point that I've lived for the last 9 years. And this person, who is a doctor, by the way, and they're not like somebody off the street who said, "Oh, this is my method, use it." And she had been practicing this since the 80s. So that got my attention that, okay, this is not something that just popped up. So the doctor had my attention, and she was talking about all my pain points that I've experienced. I have not had that conversation with anybody. It's like she's talking to me and telling me what, what can I do to undo this? And at that time, the book, the tools it's giving you is your food. So I was like, as a scientist, I was like, I can't go wrong with this, because the natural food that's growing around me, as long as I know it's not poisonous, there's no side effect that I have to worry about. Like I have to do that in a medication, which we actually slide that with water much easily than we question natural foods, and that's a
Yeah.
human tendency. We just
Yeah.
believe our doctor that, oh yeah, it's a pill, it must work.
Yeah.
And so I found myself, and I do the majority of cooking in my house. And so it was easy. And I told my family, hey, I'm doing this. Guys, you are welcome to join this with me. And everybody was on board because nobody wants to cook. And
So in that book, did they say go vegetarian or go vegan or not necessarily?
yeah, the book, I wouldn't, I would first say, if somebody is struggling with this condition, I would say just don't listen to this conversation and make your decision. I would say pick up that book, because the book's going to tell you a lot more about what's going on with the body, what's going on with the food system. And see, just read the whole thing and then try to understand it. So From your to answer your question, Paul, the answer is the book focuses on a whole food plant-based diet, looking at whole foods as, when you look at nature, you look at wild animals, they are always on a whole food plant-based diet. And there you put a pizza in front of them, they'll probably come sniff it and just walk away because they don't understand what that thing is. They probably know it's not food. And but for us, we've kind of forgotten in the modern age of engineering our food to a point where we have brought it's so over processed that our body cannot figure out.
Sure. Do you remember the author's name of the book?
Yeah, the author of the book is Dr. Nandita Shah, and I can send you a link.
Yes. Send me a
Of,
link and I'll put that below the video for everyone.
yeah, it's available on Amazon. We also sell it at the cafe. Um, and so that book was the turning point in my journey. And then I also picked up another book while I was reading that. It was Reversing Diabetes, which was written by Dr. Neil Barnard.
Yes. Very familiar with that book and that person.
hmm And so that gave me more confidence in this approach because it was an American doctor who has had such a great career and is such a big advocate of a whole food plant-based diet. So in that journey, on the seventh day, I had to half my dose of blood sugar medication that I was taking because my blood sugar was dropping so much right from the. So I felt the effects of this journey on day one, like on the day two, day three, and it was just like exponentially just growing. And on the 14th day, I had to call my endocrinologist and tell her that, hey, I think I need to do something with my medication because even like on half a dose, it's bringing my blood sugar critically low. Then she said, just stop it. And then come, we took an appointment and she said, just come see me. And
Now,
so
did you go see her before and tell her you were going to change your diet, or you didn't mention that to her?
I didn't mention it
Okay. All right.
because
So she said to come and see you, stop the medication and come see you, right? She said.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And no, she said, just stop taking it and continue whatever you're doing.
Okay.
It seems to be working for you and you're not taking in any other medication. You're just doing it with
Sure.
food. That's good for you. So, and then, I got an appointment later. But for me to just get off medication, it was less than 21 days. And at that point, I realized something that it takes you so many years to get unhealthy. But if somebody makes up their mind to really go after getting healthy, it all it took was like 3 weeks. 3 weeks is nothing.
Well,
It's
there's
less.
a saying that it takes 21 days to break a habit or create a new one.
Mhm.
And really, eating is a habit, and you either have good habits or bad habits.
Yeah, and another scientific reason to support that is that every 21 days you regenerate your taste buds. So if you are going to exclude something completely from your diet, your taste buds are not gonna, that memory is gonna be gone. And your taste buds, now, if you recall it from your memory, from just trying to remember that flavor, yeah, you can.
Now, when you made this change, did your wife and child change also with the diet at the same time, or were they like, well, we don't have diabetes, we don't have to? How were they with you?
My wife was ahead of me. She had made the decision in 2019, and her reasons for going vegan were spiritual. She read a book that um, I think it was Autobiography of a Yogi. That after that book, she just couldn't eat animals, and she's decided that she's going to go vegan. But obviously, I was doing the cooking, and I was like, I can. I had also done a course that kind of made me stop eating. Like I was not using meat as much because of that. So I was sort of in a space where I said, okay, maybe I can stop meat, but I cannot give up dairy. And so we were still like um, heavily dependent on dairy. But I
Both
had
of
made
you or
my
just you?
um, both. I mean, both of us because she couldn't go completely vegan because I do majority of the cooking, so
Got you, got you.
I
So
was
you
doing the
still had
cooking. So
dairy in your
she,
diet. Okay.
But she had
Eh,
made a decision that she wanted to go vegan.
Sure. So you
Um,
pretty much did it together after that, once you found the book and read it, and you're the cook. So now you said, I'm only cooking healthy stuff, no more dairy and all this.
yeah, and but for me, the reason was health. And then we were my wife. She had made a list of documentaries that we should watch as a family, and not telling them, okay, this is what you need to do. We gave them the option that, okay, if you want to continue drinking milk, we are going to continue that. We don't want to. It should be your decision. So we watched Dominion and yeah, and Cowspiracy at that time, and both of the documentaries that our kids watched them through, and both of them at that time said that we don't want to drink milk.
How old were your children when they watched that?
So my daughter would have been uh, 6, and my son would have been 8.
So you let your 6 and 8-year-old watch Dominion.
Yeah,
That's great. I love it.
yeah,
That's wonderful. I think every kid should see that in school. And
yeah.
and I really have to say, and I want to say this to all the viewers out there. I know like we need to make decisions for our children, especially when they're younger. But there has to come a point, and that point might be different for everyone. But I love the fact that you said, okay, now they're old enough to make their own decision, but you're just going to educate them and let them make a decision. That's exactly what I did with my and do with my children. Uh, each parent has to figure out what that age is, where the kid is able to comprehend his own decision. But when I felt my children were old enough to make their own decision, I said, look, I'm going to, you know what I believe in what I do, but I'm going to show you 3 or 4 documentaries. And then it's my job as a parent to educate you.
Hmm.
And now you're old enough from this standpoint of eating to make your choices. Uh, this is what I would prefer, but it's your body. But if you do it at too young, then they can't really often make a good decisions. But not everyone's the same level of understanding. So you can't just say 6 years old for everyone or 10 years old for everyone. But I do believe that's an important thing because I know some parents that say, I'll never do this. I'll never let my kid eat this. And then a kid grows up in rebellion or something. So I think that was a wise decision. So your children made the decision at that point. Well,
Hmm.
we want to try not eating animals. And so now your whole family is what, vegan or vegetarian?
So my kids are my daughter would is mostly vegan. They go to a school that follows a vegetarian diet. Um, and so, but my son, he I think he's kind of a vegetarian. Um, uh, yeah. So my daughter is mostly vegan, but me and my wife are strict vegans. We don't that I mean, even when we're on the
So you
road, we
didn't, so you necessarily did this for health reasons, not necessary for ethical reasons at first. Because what I found from interviewing people, I say if they've done it for ethical reasons, a person has a really difficult time if somebody else in their house is eating any animal products at all. But when it's done for health reasons first, then it makes it a little bit easier to say, okay, I'm going to do this for my health, but you can do what you think is best for you.
Mhm.
You agree on that? Like if whether
Yeah,
like if you were doing this
absolutely.
for ethically, you wouldn't want you and no one to eat animals regardless, right?
Yeah, I think for my wife, it was, I think she started at ethical, but for me, the ethical point came a little later. And, but it's a shift. It's a shift in just who you are as a person too, because that is somehow your choices are connected to your ego. And, so it's a difficult shift, and it could be very difficult for some people who are not looking at it with an open mind. That
Yeah.
your food can come from plants through and through.
So after eating this way, how long did it take before your doctor finally declared you do not have type 2 diabetes and you don't have to look back now? No medication, no diabetes. Did he ever declare that? And how long after you went to see him? How'd that work?
That's a good statement, or a good discussion point, because doctors will never declare that you're free of diabetes. You just have it under control, because in their world, what they've learned and practiced, you can't cure this. Um, so I used to do blood work every quarter, or no, it used to be every quarter or at least 3 times a year, and I was on that cycle, and so I continued that for the next 2 years to make sure that I was not, magically or somehow, somehow not getting better. So I wanted to look at my numbers for the next 2 years, the same frequency. Then I went to 2 times a year, and then now it's back. It's once a year, and it's been 4.5 years.
Okay.
So
And when you switched over to this whole plant-based food diet, uh, doctors will say you got to watch the sugar because and fruit, you got to be careful with fruit. Is fruit part of your whole foods plant-based diet, or do you think, well, maybe I should cut back on this, or do you just eat it whenever you want?
yeah, that's I feel it that statement's not completely true. That limit the fruit. A lot of people are actually on a fruit diet, and they've lived on the fruit diet for years. And actually happened to know somebody who lives in Fairfield who was on a fruit diet for 4 years. And so yeah, you can. I think nature has packed the nutrition, taste in the fruits in a very proportional way. Nature is very intelligent, and so if you consume the whole fruit whole, and you're not leaving out a portion, it provides you with a balanced nutrition and doesn't let the sugars go out of. Now, if it's modified genetically to be extra sweet, or you're eating super sweet fruits, then I think, yeah, you should just keep a tab on that. But if you're eating like healthy fruits that are not high in the sugar content, you would not have any
Well, give
problem.
us an example because you and I were talking earlier off camera about mangoes. Mangoes are pretty sweet. So, are you cautious with mangoes, or do you think this is natural and it's in its whole root, so I'm going to eat it? Or
Yeah.
how do you feel about something like that when you say sweet fruit?
Yeah, so there's also more dimensions to the fruit, not just the sugar. I don't know if you've heard about Ayurveda, Paul, but it's an ancient
Yes,
science food
yes, yes.
that comes from India. It's very popular. Ayurveda is very popular in Fairfield, Iowa.
Is it really? Okay.
It is.
I love it. And me personally, I'm on a raw vegan diet now for 30 years and I don't eat any garlic. And people always say, well, that garlic's supposed to be a great health food. For some people it is. But I know a lot of people realize how it can irritate the system and create issues. So you got to look at the big picture. And I like that type of medicine or idea, philosophy takes all those things into consideration. So I'm very aware of what it promotes. So go ahead. So you're saying with the sweet fruit, it's not just about how sweet it is. You look at all of that.
Yeah, look at it like how much because every fruit, it's alkaline when it comes into your body, but then it also brings a certain amount of what we call a pitta in Ayurveda, which means it's gonna bring a certain level of body heat. So if you eat too much of that, the mango, you will see that your body heat internally is gone. It's not something that you're gonna feel on like you're not gonna start sweating, but the heat's gonna either you'll see the effects in some sort of a blister or just a rash that might pop up because your central nervous system's just overwhelmed because of certain micro chemicals that are naturally occur in mango are just so there is also nature telling you that yeah, maybe you need to stop. You just don't want to overdo. Your stomach's full and you shouldn't overeat this. um
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But you would eat a mango. You would just
I think I can devour a mango. I love mango. That's my favorite.
okay. Is there any fruit that you wouldn't eat, considering you know, your background and history, or not really? You just be careful with what you're
Yeah,
eating.
I would be careful with the volume. Oh, yeah, I just had something that I've noticed that I used to be when I was suffering with diabetes, that my immunity was compromised over the years when I look at my immunity growing up. So that has returned now. But at that time, I would get sick very easily, and I felt like my immunity is just getting better year over year. And so I always had these upper respiratory issues when there was the pollen season would occur. And so pomegranate was one fruit that one time gave me a very bad allergic reaction that so I just avoid pomegranate for that. But it's been 2 years since that episode. I ate a lot of pomegranate. It was going to waste. I just couldn't. Was like, man, I gotta finish. It was like a pomegranate and a half, and so it caused an allergic reaction.
Okay. Now you mentioned something very interesting. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but I always have a hard time with the word. Tell us again the type of medicine or system it is. Avatar,
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. I always have trouble pronouncing that. Ayurveda. Now you
Mhm,
mentioned the word overeating. So I know in Oriental and Indian and just all these systems of eating that look at the whole picture, look at that. Like Americans just overeat, and it's the biggest problem we have. We eat too much too often and too late. It's
mhm,
definitely a big problem. All the organs work at certain times and digestion, and it's not good to eat late at night. Me personally, I wrote a book called The Daylight Diet. I don't eat when it's dark outside because I know that digestion is best when the sun's out. So
mhm.
with the Ayurveda medicine that you're doing, uh, what does it say about overeating in general, or does it say does it say have to, like American says eat a whole bunch of small meals throughout the day? But I know from what I see that the less we eat, the better we're going to be, and the less often we eat, the better we're going to be. So how often does that system recommend the person eating, or how much? What's the question comes down is what is overeating? Because that's what does it talks about that, right?
Yeah, so I'm not a subject matter expert in Ayurveda, Paul. That would be my first, but I would say it's more of like a universe of information that tells you about the quality of any herb or any medicinal plant that you can use, and it'll tell you its properties, and it'll tell you what it can do for your body. And they would say if you're doing yoga or meditation and you want your senses to be more alert and alive, then you go on a certain diet. You avoid onions, you avoid garlic, you avoid the toxins, you don't take coffee, you are not bombarding your central nervous system with other chemicals from nature. And so it tells you, it gives you that the food systems to avoid. But I think overeating is it's like a assumption that's given. You're not going to overeat because it's a system that wants to create a balance in the way you feel, because food is the fuel for this body. And if you're putting a different kind of fuel which is not high quality, then you're going to see the effects. And if you want to optimize this machine for a uh, certain activity or a lifestyle, it tells you the things that you can be on, and then you match it with your everyone has a different
Body type. Yeah.
body type.
Yeah.
You're gonna have like different energy type, and they have a different
Sure.
classification, and then you can look under there and they'll tell you these things will be really great for you. You can still have these, but maybe keep the quantity low.
Sure. Sure. Basically, some people call it spirit, some people call it vibration, some people call it chakra, but basically, our body is energy,
Hmm.
and we get to control the level of energy that we're utilizing by eating the right way in minimal amounts. Our energy will be at its highest, and
Hmm.
as we start eating and putting food in our body, we start lowering that. And some people lower it on purpose because they don't know how to handle the higher energy. And so it's all about understanding the energy and controlling the energy, or we could say health, or we could say energy, or we could say, uh, just health. and detoxification. So there's many different words that are used, but our body isn't just a body. There's even if you look at it with certain cameras, you could see the energy field. And I know it sounds new agey, everybody, but it's not. It's real. And it's about vibration. That's the greatest word, is vibration.
I
And that's why I eat raw foods and living foods. When you eat a sprout, it's the highest vibration food you could eat. It's living. It's a seed that's sprouted. It's literally living. And when you eat something that's cooked and processed and heated up in a microwave, there's no vibration of that food at all, and it's completely different. And so that's give people a little understanding of that. So yeah,
I love that, Paul. Like that you like I literally talk about that as a spiritual person and then also as a scientist that even the if you look at physics, how we understand our world through science is that we can't distinguish between matter and vibration. And if you go by that theory, then you would only want to and the food you eat, your body's making new cells. That's the fuel. Would you want to feed it a lower quality fuel when you have the choice, when you have the resources? You're not hunter-gatherers anymore. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you not feed your body the fuel that is much more gentler on the system? And some people are not conscious enough about that, and that's okay. And but you have to get the message across to the seekers who are looking for these solutions. They just haven't stumbled upon this yet. And we were
exactly.
the same way. In 9 years, we were improving our lifestyle from where we were. We stopped sodas, we stopped eating organic chicken, organic meat, thinking that, yeah, this is the change I think that we need to make. And when you realize, okay, you've got fundamental issues with this diet.
Yeah, when you mentioned the word hunter-gatherers, I just thought in the majority of the world where there were hunter-gatherers in history, they were all in environments where they could have thrived on a vegetarian diet. I mean, they were in forest. They were
Hmm.
sometimes sitting in a fruit tree waiting to kill the animal and all this stuff. They just didn't have that education of understanding like we do now. And it's and some cultures do, and they did live off a vegetarian diet in the jungles and stuff. But nowhere in the history of man did we ever need to consume animals or animal products to survive. We chose to because of our lack of knowledge about the great herbs and fruits that are out there and vegetation. So let me ask you, so here you are, now you're healthy, you're feeling better, and you have your career. What makes you decide to say, you know what, we want to open up a restaurant?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. Uh, so I would say the credit goes to my wife for that initiative because I am in our team as husband and wife and friends. Is that she is the CEO of all the things we do, and I'm the COO. And so her plan was she worked in HR and she did a skill. She has this exercise she makes people do, which tells you what are your skills, what are your passions, and what are the things that you need to focus on based on like a detailed HR. And so she did that on me. She said, "Well, you've got skills of engineering and culinary, and what can we do to?" So then she was at the forefront, and we decided to move to Iowa for a school that teaches yoga and meditation and that was the biggest driver for us to move to Iowa. And then when we moved there, we were looking at some commercial real estate, and we happened to find a restaurant that was going to go on sale, and it also had some real estate apartments and stuff. So it was right away we were interested in it, and but we were like, can we? Are we? We've always talked about doing a restaurant at some point of time in our lives, but is this the point? And one thing led to another. She kind of pursued, and while we were moving, she talked to that the owner over there at that time, and she made that deal happen, and then so she kind of is the forefront of the restaurant, and I do all of the operational side of it in terms of like designing the recipes, how we're going
Sure.
to. So yeah, it was kind of like one day at a time, Paul. We're not restaurateurs. We've both had our. I mean, I still have my corporate career, so I only work when I'm off my job, and so it's an interesting transition. But we've loved every bit of it because we feel like this is a new generation of restaurants that we're trying to do that actually questions every ingredient that goes into our food. We're not whole food plant-based, but we are very close to that whole food plant-based because majority of the stuff that we process, we do it ourselves. So that I feel is very rare when you want to go out and eat. And as a raw food person, I feel your struggle must be even more going to when you're traveling. If you don't travel, you can carry your food, but I used to travel 50% of the time pre-COVID, and I remember it's hard to make good choices when you're traveling. So so yeah, we've enjoyed the journey of being a restaurant owner, but but doing something that is completely plant-based, and it's the food that you're creating, it's created with a good intention. You're not using ingredients that are carcinogens defined that are banned in other parts of the world. I feel like this stuff should be basic. How can we be so blind to not caring about those things that are in our food today? Um, so so yeah, that is the part that keeps us going. That we are providing a service to a community, and I cannot eat anywhere else. I mean, I can, but I can only eat at my restaurant because it feels like I'm cooking. I've eaten a home cooked meal, even though it's a restaurant level meal. So so
Sure.
yeah.
Now, with your diet, are you completely vegan or just vegetarian?
Oh, I'm me and my wife, we're completely vegan.
Okay. And then do you take any supplements?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay. All right. And how, you say you get your blood work checked once a year, or it's
Once
just
a year.
okay, good, good, good.
Do once a year now.
Well,
So
everybody, this is a prime example that you can get better from not only type 2 diabetes, but every disease out there by eliminating what's creating a problem. And it's often, not 100% time, but it's often the food you're putting in your body. I'm so excited that you got this restaurant in Iowa for all places. So I'm going to put uh, the link to the restaurant where you can contact Rahul, or I'm also going to put the books that he mentioned that help him get better. And those books aren't just for diabetes; they'll get you better. This diet will get anyone better. And I'm going to put all those links below. If somebody wants to contact you personally, can they try to do that through the restaurant, or is there a better way?
yeah, they can go to our website that I'll give you the link, and they can send us an email. We also have our phone number there, and they can reach out to us. If anyone who's struggling with diabetes, or the diseases that Paul mentioned, just know that there's a cure out there. And till I read that book, I used to feel the same way as most people do, that this is what you got to live with, and you got to pop these pills till the end of your life. And it's not true. There is real solutions out there that are way easier than this, because my friends tell me that, oh, this must be hard giving up all this delicious food. And I just say, no, that was harder. That was popping pills every day and checking my blood sugar, spending all that money on prescription. That was hard. This is way easy.
Folks, folks, what can I say? He lost, wow, 60 pounds, and he got better from type 2 diabetes. In 21 days, he got better from type 2 diabetes. And now, were you on insulin or was it just oral medication?
I think I was getting to the insulin level. We had discussed
Okay.
it with my
Okay.
doctor, had that discussion, and that scared me.
And yeah, go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And another thing that really had scared me was when COVID had first come, one of the vulnerable groups in that was diabetics and people with heart conditions. So that really scared me to a point. I was like, I have a traveling job. I don't know what I'm going to do
Yeah.
once this is all over.
Yeah. Wow. 60 pounds and he's better from type 2 diabetes. And this works, folks. Rahul, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's amazing what you're doing and the knowledge that you're spreading in the world. It's nothing short of brilliance. So kudos to you for doing such an amazing work. And it's
Well,
been 30 years.
well, like yourself, when we overcome an illness, it's hard to not say anything or do anything. We want to just let the world know. And we both have work to do because, people, you don't have to be sick. It is a choice. And you can create a new habit, and it's a healthier habit. So, Rahul, I'm glad you're there, and I look forward to getting to your restaurant one day. I don't know if you know this, but I had a raw food restaurant in New York City.
Oh, you did.
Yes, I did.
Sad
And
to hear about that.
yes, and I also worked at the biggest and best vegetarian restaurant in New York City, where I put raw food on the menu there many years ago. And so I know the restaurant business and I love it. And so keep up the great work. And everybody, thank you for your comments and questions below. If you have any, and I'll put the links below to the restaurant and to the books that he mentioned. And until then, everybody, have a great day and a great world life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health.